Exploring the mysteries of the moon. It was a crisp autumn evening, and a group of teenagers gathered at the local park, gazing up at the sky. Among them was Maya, a curious 15-year-old with an ever-present notebook, her best friend Leo, a 16-year-old aspiring astronomer, and their friends Ben and Sarah, who were always game for a little adventure. "Look at that," Leo said, his finger pointing at the moon, which hung like a glowing pearl in the night sky. "Have you ever wondered what it's really like up there?" Maya flipped open her notebook and jotted down a few thoughts. She loved learning about the moon, and with Leo's help, she'd been reading up on its secrets. "It's so close, but still so far away," Sarah mused, lying back on the grass. "What's the deal with the moon's phases? I always forget which phase it is now." "Well, let me tell you," Leo said with a grin, always excited to share his knowledge. "The phases of the moon are the result of its orbit around Earth. The moon takes about 27.3 days to complete a full orbit. As it moves, the amount of sunlight that hits it changes, giving us different phases." "So that's why it looks like it's getting bigger or smaller," Ben chimed in, nodding. "It's like we're seeing different parts of the moon's surface at different times." "Exactly," Leo replied. "When the moon is between the Earth and the sun, we see the new moon. After that, it's the waxing phases, where we see more and more of the moon's face until it's full. Then it starts to wane or shrink until it's a new moon again." Maya smiled, but she had another question on her mind. "But why does the moon look so much bigger when it's on the horizon?" "That's a great question," Leo said, pulling up a bit of grass to sit down. "It's actually an optical illusion. The moon's size doesn't change, but when it's low in the sky, we see it next to trees, buildings, and other objects. Our brains trick us into thinking it's bigger because there's something to compare it to." "That's so cool," Maya said, looking up again. "But I've always wondered about the moon's surface. What's it really made of?" Leo's face lit up as he launched into his explanation. "The moon's surface is covered in a layer of dust and rocks called regolith. It's made up of small fragments from meteorites that have bombarded the moon for billions of years. If you were to walk on the moon, you'd feel like you were walking on a very fine, powdery surface." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "Isn't it true that there's no atmosphere on the moon? Doesn't that make it impossible to live there?" "Yep," Leo said. "The moon has almost no atmosphere, so there's no air to breathe, and temperatures fluctuate wildly. It can get over 250 degrees Fahrenheit, 120 degrees Celsius, during the day, and drop below minus 280 degrees Fahrenheit, minus 173 degrees Celsius, at night. That's why we can't live there yet. There's also no sound, because sound needs air to travel through. Imagine how quiet it would be." Maya's eyes widened. "That's so strange. I've always thought the moon was just a pretty thing in the sky. I didn't know it was so extreme." Ben, who had been quiet for a while, spoke up. "Is it true that the moon used to be part of Earth?" "That's one of the coolest theories," Leo said, adjusting his glasses. "The giant impact hypothesis suggests that the moon was formed from debris after a Mars-sized object collided with Earth about 4.5 billion years ago. Some of the material from Earth, along with that from the other object, got thrown into space, and over time, it came together to form the moon." Maya's eyes gleamed as she wrote down more notes. She could barely believe how much she was learning, but there was still one burning question she had. "What's the deal with the dark side of the moon?" Leo chuckled. That's one of the biggest misconceptions. There's no dark side of the moon. It's just the far side. We always see the same face of the moon from Earth because the moon is tidally locked with our planet. That means it takes just as long to rotate on its axis as it does to orbit Earth, so one side always faces us. But the other side is just as bright as the side we see. It's just out of view." "Wait, so people have never seen that side?" Ben asked. "Not until 1959, Leo said. "That's when the Soviet Union's Luna 3 spacecraft took the first photographs of the far side. Now, we've sent more missions, and we even have detailed maps of it. The far side is a lot more rugged and cratered than the side we see. It's also where the largest crater on the moon, the South Pole Aitken Basin, is located." The group sat in silence for a moment, mesmerized by the thought of a world so distant, yet so full of mysteries. Maya smiled, feeling a spark of inspiration. she would dive deeper into the moon's story and maybe, one day, contribute something new to the story of lunar exploration. As the moon's light bathed the park, the group's conversation continued, jumping from one fascinating topic to the next. For Maya, Leo, Ben, and Sarah, that evening was just the beginning of a lifelong journey of discovery.